The last episode of Season 7's Bad Batch arc was well and truly phenomenal, an epic climax for the arc that heralded the show's return. But some fans viewing the episode might have felt a bit of a disturbance in the Force. Even though it was a great episode, something about it wasn't quite right, namely the tactics. And we're not just talking about the faulty plan that Echo fed Trench. The Republic's tactics sucked as well, and it's a miracle that there were any clones left standing by the end of it all. In this episode, we're going to dive deep into these bad tactics and why exactly they sucked.
Attention, Sergeant on deck!
Now, in fairness, Star Wars The Clone Wars has never excelled in battle tactics. Droid commanders are almost unrealistically dumb, and the Republic is constantly winning battles against impossible odds and with really desperate plans. This is especially true for the earlier episodes, especially those of Season 1. And that's okay, the tactics aren't the point. As we said earlier, the Bad Batch arc is still awesome, bad tactics aside, and that's because tactics aren't the focal point of the show. Plus, unlike in Duel of the Droids, for example, the shitty tactics don't really detract from the plot, so it all works out. But the tactics have been much better before, and with the Clone Wars in its final season, we kind of expect better from the show than what Anaxes gave us. Look at the episode Landing at Point Rain, for example. While not perfect, the tactics there were commendably realistic, and they didn't have any unrealistic weaknesses either. It added to the quality of the episode too. Landing at Point Rain is an exceptional episode precisely because it feels so realistic, which draws you in and makes the threat of the battle seem real as well. Now, this video is primarily about the Republic's bad tactics at Anaxes, but we're not going to let Admiral Trench off the hook either. Trench, to his credit, did make plenty of good moves. The defenses of the manufacturing center were competently arrayed, and his failsafe was a pretty solid plan as well, considering how valuable Anaxes was to the Republic. Trench wasn't a hack. He didn't need Echo's algorithm to be a good tactician. That's part of what makes his character so fun after all. He's a competent antagonist who always poses a real challenge to the heroes of the story. And with that said, there's absolutely no excuse for Trench just blindly following Echo's false strategy. You don't need to be a leading admiral in the CIS Navy to know that sending all the troops you have stationed on an entire planet to win a single skirmish is a positively awful idea. Trench should have known something was up. At the very least, he should have known at least to tweak the strategy a bit, just in case. There's simply no good reason for him to blindly follow the algorithm like that, and he deserved to lose the battle for it, honestly. But, of course, Trench wasn't the only one with crappy tactics here. The Republic were even worse offenders. The bad tactics Echo sent Trench were absolutely right about one thing. The Republic has a tendency of putting all their faith in the Jedi, and it was a massive weakness for them. As we've established in earlier videos, the Jedi weren't good generals. They were great warriors, great negotiators, mediators, healers, and all sorts of other things, but very few of them were decent tacticians. Many clones actually resented the Jedi for this in Legends, especially those who had survived the Battle of Geonosis, where terrible Jedi tactics cost the Republic thousands of men. Now, the opening stage of the battle wasn't all that bad, tactically speaking. The Republic's rapid assault on the Anaxes manufacturing center was pretty well organized and was expertly executed. Bombers took out artillery first and foremost, allowing gunships and capital ships to move in. They made short work of a pretty solid defensive line, and they do get a few points for that. Unfortunately, we don't get to see much of how the battle outside proceeded, so the good tactics end here. What happened next was absolutely appalling. The Jedi and the clones just jumped through the skylights of the manufacturing center, landing on crates above the massive droid army Trench had waiting outside. They did this in a way that attracted as much attention as humanly possible, and they did so without shooting at all. It's bad enough that they threw away the element of surprise without literally waiting for the droids to shoot first. It isn't even explained why they did that. Surely it was contrary to what they're trained to do. Then comes Windu's speech. Now, this was a pretty great moment as far as comedy and badassery were concerned, but once more, it was tactically awful. Windu stood in front of a whole army of droids, completely exposed, not even holding his lightsaber in a defensive stance, giving a speech for way longer than he needed to, for no reason at all. He knew the droids wouldn't surrender. He knew he was completely exposed, and even worse, the men under his command were too. Windu potentially threw away clone lives just to look cool for a minute, and the only thing worse than that is the fact that the droids didn't take advantage of this BS and put a blaster bolt between his eyes. When the droids finally did start shooting, it just keeps getting worse. The clones didn't use cover, and they didn't even drop into a better position. They just stood around, completely exposed mind you, emptying Tabana cartridges into the crowd of droids and hoping they don't get shot. This can be squarely blamed on the Jedi. For them, it was a tactically safe position. The high ground is advantageous when you can deflect blaster bolts and all, but it's basically just asking for all your troops to die, and it's kind of disgraceful that the Jedi put their men at this level of risk here. Eventually, the Jedi and clones did abandon the high ground, probably to Obi-Wan's chagrin, but instead of going for cover or something smart like that, they just kind of tossed themselves into the middle of the droid army and kept fighting. They went from the most exposed position in the room to the next most exposed position in the room, and they lost a whole lot of clone troopers in the process. It could be argued that they only did this because there weren't many droids left, but when the rest of Trench's army barged in, they didn't seek cover or even move, so there's still some stupidity at work here. Fortunately for the Jedi and their surviving men, Echo's plan to shut the droids all down worked, granting the Republic victory on Anaxes. But as we know, Trench did have a backup plan. Cleverly, he had a bomb positioned in a way that would allow him to blow up the whole planet, robbing the Republic of Anaxes and granting him a bit of a Pyrrhic victory. But when the Republic discovered this, what did they do? Did they send a bomb squad that had experience with disarming separatist bombs? Did they try work out a way to quickly neutralize it before it could detonate with an ion pulse or something like that? No. They just sent one Jedi to, with help from Echo, guess the deactivation password. He was barely successful too. There are a million little things the Jedi could have done better here. They could have taken advantage of the element of surprise during the initial assault and taken out a number of droids before they could kill any clones. They could have sought cover, which was certainly available considering that they were fighting in a fracking warehouse, and even if it wasn't cover, they could have given those clones riot shields or at least had them drop into a prone position. No regard for clone lives was shown here, and we at Geetsly are all about those clone riots. The whole Battle of Anaxes just reeked of Jedi incompetence, and I can only imagine the conversation Admiral Tarkin had with Palpatine about the matter. The Jedi put all their faith in themselves for this battle, planning it to cater to their approach to combat and their abilities. This is all the more egregious since it was at the end of the war, and by this point, they should damn well have known that they were throwing lives away by fighting this way. All things considered, the Battle of Anaxes may well have just replaced the Battle of Geonosis as our textbook example of Jedi incompetence. To add insult to injury, these awful tactics were happening in a battle for Anaxes of all places. Anaxes, as the home of the Republic Naval War College in the Anaxes Citadel, was basically the strategic heart of the Republic. A significant chunk of the planet's population was composed of career tacticians, including many of the very best in the known galaxy. It was an absolute insult to the very name of Anaxes for such shoddy tactics to have been employed by the Republic in this battle, especially during the battle's climax. If the Jedi weren't the ones commanding that operation, we'd bet money that a whole lot less clones would have died. With that said though, Unfinished Business was still a terrific episode, and if you somehow still haven't watched it, don't let our critique of its tactics dissuade you from doing so. But as per usual guys, we want to know what you think. Can you think of a battle with worse tactics than this? Let us know in the comment section below. And as per usual guys, just before you go, make sure you check out all those juicy links in the description below waiting for your clicks, including our main central Discord server where you can chat with other Star Wars fans and myself, our Geetsly's Gaming Network where you can play on our Gary's mod and our upcoming Roblox servers. And if you want to help support the channel more than you already are by watching this video, please do check out the Patreon. If you do decide to donate, you get access to a special behind the scenes Discord where you can see how myself and my whole team works. Anyways guys, as always, thank you so much for watching and I hope to see you in the next video.